Hello, I'm Todd Phillips, the editor of Canadian Auto Dealer. We're here today with David Frum, respected pundit, analyst, author for The Atlantic, and a frequent contributor on a lot of U.S. cable news networks. Certainly talking about politics and U.S.-Canada relations. David, thanks for joining us today.
Great to be back with you.
Really looking forward to your appearance this year at the summit. In any other year, we would be talking about life in the post-Trump era and talking about the president-elect and what he has in store for Canada-U.S. relations. Obviously, we're going to get to that, but we're not really quite in a post-Trump world yet. This is just a few days before Christmas. Normally, this would be the time when the outgoing president would be less relevant, grabbing less headlines, but fairly extraordinary times. Can you help us make sense of what to expect in the days ahead?
Well, we are no doubt in a period of turbulence and uncertainty unlike any other transition in American history. I don't have any doubt at all that the transition will ultimately take place in a proper way and that Joe Biden will be president beginning at noon on the 20th of January. But it is a bumpy transition. President Trump is sabotaging every way he can. He's been speculating about somehow using the military, which the military, of course, wants absolutely no part of. There's some dates on the calendar to note. January 6th, the Congress will review and approve the Electoral College vote that happened earlier in December. And January 20th, it will be over. The question that this very ugly process leaves behind is, will the United States political system be functioning in the new year? Will Trump lock so many Republicans into the false claim that somehow the election was stolen that it makes effective cooperation impossible? Remember, while the Democrats have the presidency and a thin majority in the House of Representatives, the Senate is still uncertain, and there could well be a Republican Senate in the new year.
Yeah, so fairly uncertain times for sure, but it's also been a very bumpy period of Canada-U.S. relations, if not U.S. relations in other nations around the world as well. But do you think we're going to get back to a normalization in Canada-U.S. relations under President-elect Biden? And what would you recommend Canada do as we try to ease back into kind of the good graces of our longtime friend and ally?
Well, look, I think there's no question it would be more normal, more predictable, not to say trouble-free. I think in a way, to use an automobile analogy, Canada-U.S. relations are like a super highly sprung automobile. Something where if there's any bump, you feel it because there's just so much at stake. The relationship needs to be excellent, and anything less than excellent becomes a problem. So there are always problems, but I think you'll find that there are going to be people of goodwill on both sides of the border, and the process of solving the problems is going to go back to normal. The most important thing in this Canada-U.S. relationship to keep in mind for the Biden administration is, can we get the whole world trading system back to normal? It's not enough just to get things going again post-Trump, post-pandemic between Canada and the United States, but we're both integrated into global supply chains. And everyone out there who's been waiting for a window for a home renovation has suddenly had to confront, this is an integrated world, and it's not enough for trade to move well north and south across the border. It has to move well across the planet.
Well, the other thing I know you've written about a lot in the past is sort of the nature of automation and other things affecting, the world of work. Certainly automation in the auto industry is something we've seen for a long time. But I think as this new economy shapes up after the pandemic, we're really in a period of, whether it's artificial intelligence, machine learning, a period of extraordinary growth and opportunities. So do you look forward to kind of the business leaders, if you will, grabbing the helm again and normalizing trade and trying to work on some of these new areas that are going to fundamentally transition and transform our economy?
Well, I think as vaccinations spread, as people come out of their houses, as travel can resume, as young people can be young again, as parents can send their children back to school, I think 2021 is going to be a pretty happy year, a year with a feeling of relief and release. And I think we've also discovered this year some important changes that were already there. But I mean, look, the conversation we're having now, we wouldn't have done this a year ago. It was possible a year ago, but we just wouldn't have done it. And now we're doing it, and we're all thinking hard about how do we travel? We're thinking harder about how do things get delivered. And I think the future of the automobile industry in particular is going to change, because I think we're going to use our cars in different ways. Basically, we are going to drive less ourselves, and other people are going to drive more to bring things to our doors. And that's going to change the way the world works. Also, with the Biden administration, we're going to see a huge push toward the electrification of the automotive fleet. And that's going to have major implications for the years ahead.
Well, yeah, in fact, just last week, I think he announced his plans to have 500,000 new electrical charging stations across the US, which obviously will change the growth. There's some projections, I think, that there could be as many as 25 million EVs. EVs are often hyped, but consumer demand doesn't always seem to be there. So these kind of things for our audience of car dealers in February, very keen. They'll be very keen to hear sort of your thoughts on all this as the new administration takes shape. And any other thoughts about a sneak preview of what we can expect to hear on the summit?
Yeah, well, no question, environmental issues are going to be a big priority for Biden. If the Republicans keep the Senate, you're not going to see big environmental legislation, but you're going to see a lot of environmental executive action. And the president has a lot of power because of some favorable Supreme Court decisions that were that are in the past, and we can talk about that at the meeting. President Biden will have a lot of power to issue new kinds of orders. But I think what we're going to see, as we so often do in this for technology, is that nothing happens, and then suddenly everything happens. Because so often in the history of change, we discover the greatest restraint is the conservatism of our own human nature. And the technological possibility shows up before human beings are willing to use that new possibility. And that's the way I think it's going to be with electric cars and battery storage.
Awesome. Well, I'll stop you there because we don't want to give away the whole talk, but we could talk all morning because obviously it's been an extraordinary time, and it'd be good to catch up for our audience as well, and just your thoughts on what's happened over the past 4 years and how that may affect Canada-U.S. relations going forward. But we'll have to tune in for the summit to get the full meal deal. Appreciate you, David, joining us today from Picton County in Canada with your dogs around and enjoying life back in Canada. So thank you.
Thank you so much. A pleasure to be with you from Ontario.
Okay, cheers. Signing off.